Elevenses with the reps at Diesel Bookstore. It is our first Elevenses of December 2025, the longest and yet shortest year I think I have ever experienced. It's really been something, 2025, and here we are in the last month of it. It's been quite an amazing year for books, though. Despite everything else that has happened in the world, the books have really been popping this year, and now we get to the part where we are shopping for gifts for everybody on our list. And we have some absolutely fabulous reps and booksellers here with us today to tell us about some of those fantastic gift ideas. Just more than enough. So, the excess, of course, you can just always order for yourself. That's what I do. And every week here, when we get together with our reps and our booksellers and they give us these wonderful recommendations for books, I add to my to be read pile, and it is now toppling over. And I have several. Do you know there's all kinds of bookshelves you can buy that like fasten into the wall that don't look like bookshelves that you can stick in corners? I really have found every possible permutation of bookshelf that is available. And we need it because we have so many great, fantastic recommendations. So, without further ado, let me introduce who's here today talking about books, and we will get rolling because we've got a lot of great books to talk about today. So, joining us today, we have Joe Murphy from W.W. Norton. We have Tom Benton from Penguin. And joining us in her shiny shirt, we've got Kelsey, bookseller extraordinaire from Diesel. And behind the scenes, of course, Joey is posting links to all of the books we talk about today. They'll be in the chat area there, so you can go ahead and click on those later and order at your leisure. All right. Let's get going on this wonderful, brisk December morning. Joe, why don't you start us off?
Sure. The first book I'm going to talk about is McNamara at War by Philip and William Taubman. They have written two massive biographies, a huge biography of Gorbachev and a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of Khrushchev. Obviously, McNamara is a bit of a departure, but it's a really fascinating book. And I think the timing on this is just right. It's now been 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. I was working in bookselling when his memoir came out in the 90s, and no one wanted that at the time. I mean, it sold, but like no one like I worked with or who got no one wanted to hear from him then. I think, with 30 more years distance and in a much more objective take on him, this is a really well called for book. It essentially portrays him as what he was, a really brilliant man who wound up having an incredible moral and, for that matter, practical blind spot about the Vietnam War. It's very informative about this sort of background of who influenced who in terms of going further into the war. People tend to think it was, all McNamara convincing LBJ into it. And it turns out that like both LBJ and actually the Kennedys, including Jackie, kind of helped push McNamara into expanding the war, which is a take I wasn't expecting. I think it's a perfect gift for this time of year. I'm actually my little pet project of my own for this year is becoming a Robert Caro completist, and I'm on volume 2 right now. And as anyone familiar with this project knows, we are lacking the Vietnam volume of that, and it's going to be a nail biter as to whether it happens or not. So, in the meantime, Robert Caro fans, I think this is a perfect gift to give them a really good history of the political history of Vietnam.
So interesting. I was just talking about this recently with somebody about how the Vietnam War with images that were on, it was the first time with images on TV that people saw what was going on, and it wasn't sort of something removed or distant. And there's still more coming out, even with all of that. things that we didn't know that happened, that transpired, even with the release over the years of different papers and things. And that is a really interesting angle that you're talking about, Jackie. That's did not think of that one.
No, I did not see that coming either. I mean, I don't think she was into the specific ins and outs of military planning, but she was supporting her husband in terms of encouraging McNamara to, yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. Definitely a great a great book for the historian on your list. And again, we were talking about this last week. There's always people in the bookstore who want to know, I don't know what to, I'm going to the holidays at my, you know girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, for the first time, and I'm meeting the family, and I don't know what to give, her uncle, her dad, her, whoever it is. All I know is that they like military history. All right.
It's funny that now Vietnam would be one of the safer topics you could talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Tom, what's your first book today?
My first book is Olga Tokarczuk's House of Day, House of Night. So we were saying before, like this, by now most of the brand new books from us are already in stores. But this was one late, we're publishing this. This was just on sale yesterday. And it's a big deal because it's a new Olga Tokarczuk, a Nobel laureate. And well, let me reframe that. It's a brand new in English translation, brand new English translation, brand new publication. But this is this is an earlier novel that I think had been published here maybe decades ago in a different translation. But this is now the important addition to her work in English. So it's as all of her books are set in Poland. This one's set just after World War II. It's to describe the plot. I mean, her books are not plot heavy in any way, but the narrator comes to a small village in southern Poland, does not know anyone, and so it's about the act of her discovering the people and places around this town. And every person she meets, everything she sees has a story, and it's about those the chorus of stories that she brings to life. There's a drunk Merrick who discovers that his body he shares a body with a bird. There's a Franz Frost whose nightmares come to him from a newly discovered planet. And there's the man whose death with one leg on the Polish side, one on the Czech, causes an international incident. There are German soldiers, of course, still around. They haunt the region. So this is a book. It's very much, when she won the Nobel Prize, it wasn't for Flights, but it was published right around the time of her novel when we published her novel Flights. And that she called a constellation novel, a novel that, again, not driven by a plot, but you're set. You have a almost like connected stories, but more novelistic than that. But the constellation novel from her view is, you have from the view from above, I guess, of all these characters in this place that's interweaves narrative, history, mythology, philosophy, and really about a time and place. So she's in a way, very accessible writer. She's not a difficult writer, but the way she's telling the story is unusual. Like, we're not used to it. At least I'm not. Has a beautiful new translation by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. So if you've read her before, or even never read Olga Tokarczuk, this is a good one to start with. I mean, my favorite was Flights. So I love this kind of novel from her. So great to have this finally in English, House of Day, House of Night.
So you always want to keep up with, Nobel Prize winners. At
Yeah.
least I do, right? So when she won the Nobel Prize, I was like, okay, I'm going to dive in. And I think I dove in with the wrong one, or I just didn't, but it's
Which was it, Drive Your Bones, or do you remember?
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes, yes. That's exactly what it was. It just was it was like a little rough getting in, for me. You sometimes you just have to sort of adjust your reading speed or your lens,
Yeah.
the way the focus that you have on reading. We read a lot, all of us, and all the time, and a lot of different kinds of things. And sometimes you have to really, there's like a shift that you have to do. So, but what I found with her was that if you make that shift and you readjust your expectations, then it opens up for you.
Exactly. And
um
sort of
yeah,
surrender to the way to the story, to her
exactly.
storytelling. Yeah.
Exactly. Surrender's a really good way to put it. And then it's very rewarding. This is sort of what I did with Faulkner way back in the day, after I had
Yeah.
threw
All of us. All
Absalom
of us.
against the wall several times. And then yeah, that was rough. That took like a year and a half. But then when I
Oh yeah,
broke through,
Absalom is not a starting point for
oh
Faulkner.
no, it was really not. It was really not. And then I broke through with The Sound and the Fury, and then I was like, I could not be told anything about Faulkner. I mean, after that. So
That's right.
yeah. So that's the magic of reading, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it really is.
absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Tom. All right, Kelsey, what's your first
All
book today?
right. Sorry, I have a little tickle in my throat. So this book doesn't really need me to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it because I loved it so much. It's been so popular, but it's now out in paperback. It's been out in paperback for maybe a couple months. It's All the Colors of the Dark, Chris Whitaker. And I think the reason I love this book so much is because I thought it was just going to sort of be like a mystery because it's in our mystery section. That's sort of what people talked about. And it starts out very much as a mystery. There's a young boy that goes missing because he's trying to protect a girl who's going to be attacked. But then it turns into much more of a sort of like family friend saga thriller mystery. So it's not just like this one vein mystery book. It's beautifully written. I love the premise. There's this whole like art vein of it that's really beautiful, like trauma, struggle, sort of. I couldn't put it down. It's a really quick read because although it is like, it's kind of thick, the chapters are all really short. So you just want to keep going because you're like, oh, one more chapter. Oh, one more chapter. And then all of a sudden you're through the whole book. And it reminded me a little bit of God of the Woods in that you've got these different character perspectives and you're sort of waiting because you know that they're all going to crash together. And then at the end, they all come together. I was in tears multiple times, happy, sad, all of the above. And I also think I judge a lot of like mystery-ish books off of if I guess things that are going to happen. And there were so many things that I was texting a friend who'd already read it, just being like, and this happened, and this, like, I could not, like, yeah, I really loved it. So I just wanted to talk about it because I think if you want a really good, fast-paced, like mystery thriller family saga for the holiday season, if you're going on vacation, you want a paperback, it's a great choice.
I actually was really excited that you were going to talk about this because I have not read it. I have held it in my hands a million times, and of course,
Right.
Sold it, and what people reading it and seeing it pop up over and over again in many different
Right.
places, and still have not read it. So I was really happy that you're going to talk about it, so I could learn a little bit more about it because I want desperately to read it.
Yes, definitely read it.
And but I'm we're heading into like a little bit of time here where you can just, it's like your gift to yourself to just not sort of, we all kind of read for work, but like just the reading that you do, like candy,
Right.
and relaxation, and just really something to take you away. And I think this would be a great one for that. So
Yeah, certainly.
yeah. And available in paperback. Perfect.
Right, which is nice.
Thank you, Kelsey. Joe, back to you. You're muted.
Sorry. The next book I'm going to talk about, I can't hold up because it's in such scarce supply right now. We were delighted yesterday to find out that we had a book on the New York Times Top 10 of the year. And that book is Wild Thing by Sue Prideaux. It is the definitive biography of Paul Gauguin. So Paul Gauguin in recent decades has been an easy figure to pillory. Sue Prideaux has not done that. She kind of withholds judgment and she unearths a whole lot of facts around him. And so this is truly like a revisionist biography. It's not just, oh, Paul Gauguin was the sex pest of Polynesia. It's much more complex than that.
That would be a title right there.
Well, I'll start with one highlight. He did not, in fact, have syphilis. So there's that right there. He actually it's a look at his really staggeringly prodigious talent, and he fought for the Polynesian people against their French colonial masters, in fact. And he worked in a number of mediums, painting, woodworking, ceramics, and more. He influenced Van Gogh, Picasso, Matisse. Prideaux had like extensive first-person research into this, including unearthing previously unknown memoir by Gauguin. So it's an incredible, beautifully written biography that really changes everyone's perception of Gauguin. And now it's a New York Times Top 10 of the year. We have been out. So we truly were surprised. We did not have any copies on hand when this happened, but partial reprint is landing Friday, and then another on the 12th, and then a bigger one on the 18th. So it's coming. So you can order it if it's not on hand, or grab the last copy off the shelf.
What an exciting, that's very exciting that it made the list. And also, he's such a fascinating character. So I can understand why, if you've broken it open and got some new insights on Gauguin, then I can understand why it's been so popular. But that's a wonderful gift for so many different people I can think of, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
And we've got one or two, I think, that are on the shelves at the moment.
Oh, yes.
I think I saw them yesterday. I think. So
all right.
Call us and check, or just come in. I think there's
get
one.
them. Yeah, there's the link is right there. So get them while they're there, right? But more coming. Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
Tom?
Well, speaking of the New York Times Top 10, my favorite day of the year, I think, but one of my favorite days every year. Hoping and praying that some of my favorite books are on there. And this year, indeed, it happened. You've heard me talk about Marriage at Sea. All of us have heard me talk about Marriage at Sea many times since July when we published.
Oh no, before that.
Yeah, you're right. It's been a whole year of Marriage at Sea. So let me talk about it some more, because it was one of the New York Times Top 10. And I kind of, in a way, I stalk the New York Times. I read the tea leaves on the podcast. I try to see exactly, and I had a hunch, I had a feeling, Marriage at Sea. I knew it was one of the favorites of those editors, and sure enough, it made the list. So Marriage at Sea, for those who don't remember, is the story of a very eccentric British couple in the early 1970s who the husband's dream, Morris, his dream was to sell all his belongings and buy a boat and sail from England to the Galapagos. Crazy dream he had. And Marilyn, his wife, agrees. This is what we're going to do. And they do it. And then they are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean when a whale hits their boat. And they spend the next 120 plus days on a raft. And this is the first book by Sophie Elmhirst. So she's taken a story that is not it's not secrets. She hasn't uncovered a story that no one's ever heard before. This was sort of a cause célèbre after they were rescued. But she has brought so much depth to this story When the book was published in England, it was called Morris and Marilyn. And I'm so happy we changed the title to A Marriage at Sea, because this is so much about a marriage. It is a survival story. So if you like David Grann, if you like shipwreck stories, you will love this book. But it really is for I believe it is for every single reader. Because all of us who have partners, we all put ourselves in the shoes of these two and think, what would we do? Am I a Marilyn or am I a Morris? Most of us probably are not Marilyns, but Morris would not have survived this without Marilyn. So this book is fantastic. It is a great gift book. It can be given to any reader. And now that it's been this book that Riverhead had a hunch about it. Well, and they had a hunch, and then they just kept working and working and working to spread the word that this little book that could is a book for every reader. And it's been happening. It's won awards, and now I think this will put it over the edge. This is so. If you've been waiting, if you haven't read it yet, pick it up. Marriage at Sea. It's a jewel like a book because it's not that long, but she packs so much of research, but also emotion. I was in tears at the end of this book. You'll be Googling pictures. You'll be looking at interviews with them after the fact. It is an incredible story, and it's a great publishing story too. So couldn't be happier. Marriage at Sea, Sophie Elmhirst.
There probably are a few people who haven't read this book yet. It's a bit of a sleeper to start
There
off
must
with,
be,
but
yeah.
you have to read it. Like I just could not. Well, I mean, I had to read it all the way through, but I was like, this cannot be a true story. And it is. And I think Tom and I talked about it after I read it. And we emailed, right? We had a long email chain going on because I didn't know anybody else who had read it at that point because it wasn't out yet. And I had to talk about it. And I was talking to Gabe about it as well and telling him what, everything that happened. And he was like, yeah, that would not be us. I think the consensus was that Gabe would have pushed me overboard or pickled me somehow, and then or something like that. We would not have worked together like that.
Mistake, whatever it is, yeah.
Right. And then we agreed that they survived, these two, by dint of their extreme Britishness. They just they just were too British to perish in any kind of undignified way, and so they're pulling turtles out of the water and eating them raw, unbelievable, and so well written. And she used Sophie Elmhirst used a lot of Marilyn kept notes and journals during this epic journey of theirs that survived the journey, and she's reproduced those, so you really feel like it's them telling the story, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because it was a famous story. There were books published about it then, but it's all forgotten, and so she brings it to life in a way that is really extraordinary.
Yeah. And they went out again. Yes. I mean, they went out again.
Even more, mind-boggling. British, I guess.
Anyway, really just definitely a book you've got to, if there's somebody who hasn't read this book yet, and it has been on a lot of lists, really give it to them, because it's a really fantastic book.
And in stock.
In stock, yes. Wisely printed, lots of them. Thank you, Tom. All right, Kelsey, back to you.
All right. So I'm going to talk about a graphic novel version of a book written by Jason Reynolds. The book itself came out in 2017. My suggestion, actually, honestly, would be to read the book and then read the graphic novel. It's one of those that, I think you're not going to be bored reading one and then reading the other, even though it's the same story. The book itself is super fast. It's written in prose. I read it in an evening. Also, I want to apologize to Jonna if I stole this book and he ever wanted to talk about it, because Jonna, my fellow bookseller, is the one who gave this to me and told me to read it. But then more recently, they made this beautiful graphic novel version with fantastic art that is sort of in a watercolor style, and it's just, the story is really beautiful. It all, I don't want to say too much because I think it'll spoil it, but it's about a young man whose brother is devastatingly gunned down in front of their house, in front of their apartment complex. And he wakes up the next morning with the decision that he knows who did it, and he's going to go and act revenge. And he takes his brother's gun and he gets in the elevator. And then the entire book takes place in the elevator. And I don't want to say much more than that because it kind of will totally ruin the premise for you. But it's such an amazing concept, and it's beautifully written, and it's really emotional, and it's really, I really, really loved it. And then this graphic novel version, I think, just adds these beautiful illustrations to it and brings the whole thing to life. But that's also why I think you should read the book first, so you have your own imagery, your own, and then yes, thank you, Joey, these beautiful watercolor images, which then adds another level to this story. But I was so glad that Jonah, I don't even know, he picked it up at a used bookstore, and he was like, you should read this. And Jason Reynolds generally just writes these great books that sort of bring in these characters that we don't often maybe read about or hear about, or that are stories that you have maybe never experienced and hopefully will never have to experience, and making sure that those come to light and that you're learning something and you're seeing a different point of view of life, which I think is fantastic. So read the book first and then pick up the graphic novel as well.
I've been looking at that graphic novel forever. I feel like it's about, I don't know when it came out, but I mean, I've been looking at it forever. And it's selling really briskly, and but I have that the art is absolutely stunning. It's so evocative.
It's really beautifully done. It looks like so the graphic novel was 2022. The book originally was 2017, I believe.
Right.
But I was so excited when I saw it come back in, because it came across the counter the day that I had finished the book itself. And so I picked it up and I was really excited. I just think it's a great, sometimes I don't think you need to make things into graphic novels maybe, but this I feel really adds another level to it. So
yeah, it's like the movie of the book, but it's the book of the movie of the book.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's great. It's beautiful. Pick it up.
Yeah, another fabulous gift. Thank you, Kelsey.
Certainly. You're welcome.
Joe?
So the next book I'm going to talk about is turning out to be kind of our big fall hit, and it's called The Gales of November by John U. Bacon. So for residents of the Great Lakes, the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald actually has a mythological level of importance. Pack memorials are still held all over the Great Lakes region for the 29 people who were lost on the ship. Famously, there's a song by Gordon Lightfoot, which, despite being 6 minutes long, became a huge hit when it came out, because it's a bop, I guess. So the exact circumstances of the wreck have never really been completely determined, partly because there were no survivors from the ship. And John U. Bacon has done this incredible balance of, first of all, really trying to get to the bottom, if you will, of what happened with the ship. And it's a really interesting story, because Great Lakes disasters are not like being on the ocean, because the waves come from different directions and there's ice involved. It's like a completely different story. So he does a great job, coming as close as we ever will to determining that, as well as really telling the deeply human story of the lost men, and interviewing their families at extensive length, and the people who are on the nearest ship, which was called the Arthur Anderson, which I can only presume was not named after the accounting firm that were the closest witnesses to what happened. And it's also kind of like a tale of the region's fall from industrial power too, because this was a shipping a shipping ship. Sorry, they were it was being used for industrial shipping, which was much more significant at the time of the disaster than it is now. Of course, it's really brilliant. I have to say that I manage the regional indie bestseller list for Norton. I send them out to everyone who wants to know about it. And the uptake in California was a lot slower than in other regions. Needless to say, it was #1 in the Great Lakes and has been since it came out. But it's been on almost every other bestseller list but ours. That is finally changing. I think the gravitational pull of Ultimate Dad Gift has overcome any regional perception finally. So, but it is a terrific read. So that's The Gales of November by John U. Bacon.
Well, it's been on the bestseller list in my house
Good.
since before it. Gabe grabbed I think he saw an advanced reader copy, and he is okay. First of all, ships. Second of all, like sings that song relentlessly when I don't want him to. And we've had argument.
You probably mostly you don't want him to. I would think it's.
Not mostly, all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
And then we've had arguments about whether or not it's a sea shanty or not. But anyway, regardless, he was like, well, obviously I have to read this, and he picked it up, and then he loved it. He said it's so good. It really is chock full of just information about all of that, all the ships on the Great Lakes, and all of the not just that, the Edmund Fitzgerald's in particular, but also everything that happened around that, and other disasters that happened in that. That wasn't the only one, and super interesting, and just all kinds of information that you don't know, and it is like weirdly kind of culty. Every year the kinds of gatherings and things like that, aficionados and other interested parties. So but he loved it, and he was telling me bits and pieces of it, so I kind of feel like I sort of read it by proxy. Really interesting, a really fabulous gift, I think.
Shipwrecks have long been sailing and ships and etc. have long been like a Norton specialty. We have Patrick O'Brien, of course, but we also published The Perfect Storm. So
was that you guys, The Perfect Storm?
That was us.
Ah.
Unfortunately, we sold the paperback rights, but we did. They've come back to us since then. But yeah.
All right, good to know. Norton equals Shipwrecks. All right. All right, Tom.
Joe, I'm happy to hear California has caught up or is catching up to the rest of
It's catching up, yeah. I think we might bring him out too, from what it sounds like. He is the relentless self-promoter, so he's like really, really good.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I want to know about that. That'd be great.
Okay, so my next book, another one of my favorites of 2025, is Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood. Our second New York Times top 10 book yesterday. So that was another really exciting moment to see that Stoneyard Devotional, another book that has had this very interesting publishing year. It was on the short, I think it made the short list of the Booker Prize last year in November. Then we didn't, so it was published in the UK, it was published in Australia and the UK last year. We published it in February here and to amazing reviews. And now it's come back for the holidays, which is fantastic because it's a book that there were a lot of readers who would really love this book. So this is the story of a woman at midlife who leaves her regular life behind, goes to a convent. Now she is an avowed atheist. She does not realize it's almost inexplicable how she ends up at the convent, and she doesn't intend to stay, but stay she does. And So this is a book that is from its title, Devotional. It is a interior book, I would say, like meditative, though there are moments of terror, including the very true mouse invasion of that part of Australia, that the nuns are trying to keep the mice at bay, which is I've said, I think I said originally, like it's like a Stephen King novel breaks out in the middle of this very meditative novel. There's the return of the remains of a nun who, there's a whole story around that, and another nun who is involved in, a big part of the novel is about climate change. How do we live? How does a person live with climate in this time of climate change? How does a person live in this time when there are so many other things that we live in fear and terror of? How does a person live is really what this book is about. And it's I think if you love Marilyn Robinson's books, this is definitely for you. Charlotte Wood is an Australian writer who, she's very big. She's a huge name in Australia, and now it's great that we are finally catching on. We're going to publish one of her earlier books in paperback in February, so there'll be more Charlotte Wood to come to talk about. But for now, if you love great fiction and you missed this one, Stoneyard Devotional for the holidays. I'll end with the New York Times in the announcement yesterday. They said, true to its title, this exquisite novel traces the interior path of a woman grappling with how to live without causing harm. In the process, Wood shows that our attention is one of the most sacred gifts we have to offer. So there you have it. Love this book.
You didn't mention that you're in the tank for nuns. That's one of my favorite lines of Tom's. I'm in the tank for nuns, which is how Tom sort of pitched it to me. Nuns and Australia and all of this other stuff, and which immediately piqued my interest as well. Another really unusual kind of book that unexpected, which I loved as well. Another really fabulous book and well deserving of its place of the best of. It's really great. Those two books, like your two favorites.
I know, it was a good year for me.
Yeah, it's great.
And Riverhead, more importantly, Riverhead, the publisher.
Yeah, Riverhead, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Kelsey?
All right. I always love to bring a new favorite picture book on here. So my new favorite at the moment is If You Make a Call on a Banana Phone, which has this fantastic cover of a gorilla on a banana phone. It's by Gideon Starer, and the art is Emily Hughes. And this is just a really delightful kids book about a small child who decides to make a call on the banana phone. He's like sitting in the pantry making a call, and the gorilla picks up on the other end and he chats with the gorilla. There's some really funny lines. This is one of those that as soon as it came in at the store, I stopped whatever I was doing so that I could stand behind the counter and read the book and laugh out loud. The gorilla at the beginning is like, "Who are you? Why are you calling?" And the kid is like, "I just wanted to call and say hey." And so they like chat, and he tells the gorilla a joke, and the gorilla laughs out loud. And then the other animals in the jungle get a bit jealous that the gorilla is getting to talk to this young kid on the phone, and they chat about all sorts of things. And then and it's also just like beautiful illustrations throughout, which I always love. And then at the end, the gorilla and all his animal friends show up to meet them at their house. And the last line is it has a much more like heartwarming ending than you expect, because it's kind of silly and funny the whole time. And then it says, if you call someone on the banana phone, you might just make a friend. And it's just like, it's so cute. It's lovely. It's heartwarming. It's funny. I just love a kid's book so much. That has great illustrations and a cute little story. So Pick this up at the store, read it. I'd love to chat with you about it because I loved it. Yeah.
Kelsey's such a great ambassador for these books, because you make it genuinely, the feeling of it, and I think that our policy has always long been, if you're stumped for for a book for a kid, you cannot go wrong with monkeys or gorillas. So it's like a monkey card, a monkey book, a gorilla book. I mean, it's like it's a slam. Everybody loves them. And this is particularly cute. So
it is very cute.
Yeah, a really an excellent picture book gift. Thank you, Kelsey.
Certainly. You're welcome.
Joe, what's your last book of the day?
Well, rounding up my collection of what I'm increasingly realizing are mostly dad picks, we have Wings by Paul McCartney. I have to say, when this, it is a fun and funky cover that Paul McCartney and his group and his people helped create for this. We initially just had the little W symbol as a placeholder in our Edelweiss catalog, and I thought, we're doing a book on Weezer? But I was wrong. So this is a kind of exciting book. I didn't know, as the sales rep, I'll admit, I didn't know what necessarily to expect for how this would go, because I thought, is this going to be like, I don't know, Van Halen, the Sammy Hagar years, or are people really going to want this? Apparently they really do. And it's turned out to be a big Wings fall, because there's a best of album that kind of goes along with this. And there's a big documentary about the history of Wings. And it actually really is quite fascinating. That Wings, of course, is the band that Paul McCartney formed after the breakup of the Beatles. And this is an oral history told by all the band members and about its creation and what happened to it. It's also very heavily illustrated because, conveniently, both McCartney and, even more notably, his wife Linda, who was a band member, were photographers. And so there's tons of photos in this that have not been seen before. So it's really cool. It's a behind the scenes history of Wings, and it goes album by album. There's a discography at the end. It tells about the recording sessions and their tours and you name it. So again, I think a great gift for the holidays. Paul McCartney, Wings by Mr. McCartney.
There's a lot of does it happen every December that there's like a Beatles kind of retrospective? It does, right?
Yes, and lucky for us, our editor Bob Weil formed a very nice relationship with Miss McCartney, resulting in first that we did the lyric, his complete lyrics, and then we did 1964, which is a photographic history by him of his first American tour with the Beatles, and now this. So it's been a terrific relationship for us.
Yeah, and then literally, I'm a fellow bookseller. That was every single one of those went to her dad for as a holiday gift. But this one's fun. I mean, Wings. I was just thinking about Wings the other day and how they went on a lot longer than the Beatles did, I think. Yeah. And they're just as iconic in a lot of ways, actually. If you think about it, it's really in in your consciousness. You're like, oh yeah, Wings. That was also Wings. Oh yeah, that was also Wings. So much a part of everything. So that looks like a beautiful book. Excellent gift.
Yeah, it came out very nicely. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. All right. Let's wrap it up for the day, Tom.
So my last book is a favorite from last year, now out in paperback. That's Wright Thompson's The Barn. So this is it's one of those books that I truly think, if there's any justice, this book will last. We will be going back to this book because the book is about the erasure of history. So it's the story, the subtitle, The Secret History of a Murder in Mississippi, of course, refers to the murder of Emmett Till. And Wright Thompson, one of our very best writers, period. He is maybe the best sports writer around, but really one of the best writers around. Grew up not far from the barn where Emmett Till was murdered and didn't know the story. That's how deeply we had erased the story, even in the soil, as he would say, around around the barn. So he tells this big, sprawling, important story, really for the first time in a way that gets at all of the truth of it. It tells the story of that time and that place, but also how it looks today, and what, who's still left today. He takes you to, you feel like you are taken to the barn in a way that it's really amazing. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about it, because it's one of my really, just think one of the most important books we've published over the last few years. But there has been news about this that's we need good news. So this is good news in the reclaiming history world. So last week, the Emmett Till Interpretive Center they purchased the barn. So because there was concern about would it be a symbol, or would it be erased, as most likely under normal circumstances would happen. They bought the barn thanks to a $1.5 million gift from Shonda Rhimes, who I think she read the barn and decided this is an important symbol. And as she said, her quote was, "My hope is that this story never gets lost." And then Wright Thompson, responding to what happened, said, "The most important thing to happen to the Delta in generations, that this is the most important thing, because history is most accurately told here and most reliably erased through the land. Who owns it? Who farms it? Who lived and died on it? Whose ghost is trapped in it? The Delta remains a place where power is tied to ownership of the dirt." He praised Rhimes for stepping into the breach, and through her generosity, the dirt has been reclaimed, and once reclaimed, the slow process of cleaning the blood from it can begin. This is a place people will visit for generations. So really important moment for the South, and a perfect time to revisit his book, The Barn.
I don't know anybody who has read this book who wasn't just completely blown away by it. And it's been a very popular book. Has sold really well, but but everybody, I mean, no one has anything bad to say about it. Everybody is just like completely, and this is lots of different kinds of readers, just completely
That's right.
drawn in by it. And it's very involving and compelling, and so I think it's across the board, a really great book. And yeah, I mean, it's not like a gift, but it's a great book to give somebody who will really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that is a great way to end a really excellent collection of books for today, and lots of fantastic gift ideas across the board, not just for dads, Joe. But I really appreciate all of you bringing such fantastic books today, and hope you all got some great ideas. So thank you very much to Tom Benton from Penguin, and Joe Murphy from W.W. Norton, and Kelsey from Diesel. And thank you, Joey, for posting all of the links and the covers. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to be back next week, and next week will be our last Elevenses before the holidays. We'll have a couple of weeks break there, so make sure you tune in next week. We're going to do that last holiday push, and we'll have lots of great ideas for you, and lots of wonderful reps and booksellers here to talk about all of it. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful week until we see you again next week, and happy reading. We'll see you next week.